How are you?
Good, and you?
Very well. I've been knowing you for like the past 3 or 4 years now, but we've been interacting on so many platforms, doing amazing things over the years. But I've never actually asked you, how did you end up as an optometrist?
So I was kind of like my own inspiration, if we can call it that.
Okay.
I am very highly myopic, minus 550s, no
Really?
astigmatism. Yeah. So I've been wearing glasses since I was 9. Didn't know. Just used to tell my parents I can't see on the board, I'm copying from friends, this has become a problem now. They took me for an eye test and then we figured out that I am short-sighted.
Okay.
Few years later, 4 years later, I think I was 12, the optometrist was asking me how the glasses are going. I said I don't like them. I was hitting puberty and being self-conscious, and she's like, well, let's try contact lenses if you guys are okay with it. And we tried it and I was amazed at how this little squishy thing can make me see that leaves actually have edges. And it's not just a blob of green on the tree.
I got you.
So I was like, okay, this seems like a nice profession. I just liked the way that my optometrist carried herself at the time. And I was playing around with, do I want to be a lawyer, an accountant, a doctor? And somehow I just kept on coming back to optometry.
Wow.
Decided to study it, and here we are.
And that journey, you graduated about a decade ago. I don't want to reveal I don't want to reveal your age. But after being in the industry for like a decade, you have obviously gone through various challenges, obstacles, opportunities. You have discovered things about optometry, about yourself, that perhaps you were not aware of when you started. How was the early years of you becoming an optometrist like?
Bit of a shock to the system. So I got my first job literally 3 days after my final exam.
Wow.
So I did not even yet know if I had a qualification, and I had to kind of say to my employer at the time, can you just wait for next week so that I know if I am an optometrist or not? Kind of started working immediately, and it was a shock to the system. I mean, in varsity you are given ample time to go through each patient step by step. So in a working environment, everything happens very quickly. There's no supervisor. You are a fresh graduate. You're kind of still trying to find your feet and not quite sure of what you're doing because nobody's there to sign off the file, say, yes, go ahead and prescribe to this patient. A little bit of a shock to the system. And my first exposure was really just clinical.
Okay.
So my job was to see patients and prescribe or suggest lenses. I didn't do any of the front house stuff. So I would hand them over to a sales consultant or a dispenser or a frontliner, as we call them here, and that would be the end of it. And then a few months in, I started spending time in the front to actually see, well, okay, this is what happens here. And I mean, I'm supposed to know about frames. I'm the optometrist,
For sure.
How do they do this? How would I want to do it? How would I do it differently? I started hanging out with the accounts lady, like, oh, so this is how you bill people, and this is what goes to a medical aid or medical insurance, and
So all of that came whilst you were already an optometrist.
Yes. Which is actually, there's so much more to it than I feel we were exposed to in varsity.
Okay.
Because our practice management course was literally 1 year in our final year, and it was 4 to 6 week courses of little things, ethics, and then a bit of practice management where they go revenue minus expenses equals profit.
What you're saying is that it's like it's left to the last part, and then it's jam-packed into one session.
Yes.
As opposed to the clinical and the academic components, you get to spend 3 or 4 years becoming comfortable and competent in that, and then in your final year, that last bit where you're doing the practice management course, what should change then? Do you feel that it should change from second year or third year? Because I experienced it myself, whereby when I look back at everything else that happens outside of the examination room, I actually don't recall being taught about that. It was like on-the-job learning, how to deal with people, how to deal with suppliers. I don't remember ever been taught anything to do with
So those
suppliers, you know.
instances,
So I learned that more in detail when I was a sales rep, actually.
Yes.
Not even
In
working
practice.
as an optometrist, you know. So where do you think the opportunity to change then it lies?
Firstly, the clinical side is definitely important. I mean, you've got to know what you've got to know to do the
For
job,
sure,
right?
for sure.
But probably just a little bit more in-depth education around that and earlier exposure. Even if you are not planning on becoming your own boss or an entrepreneur or a practice owner, just understanding how the business runs, because you, as the optometrist in a practice setting, you will always be one of the more senior people in the setup. So it's good for you to understand where your employer is coming from. And then obviously if you want to run your own business, you have to know.
I got you. Now, how long have you been a business owner?
I'm 2 years in.
Okay.
Prior to this, I guess I was lucky in the regard that I've worked for 3 practices prior to working for myself, and I was lucky in the regard that they always let me do my own thing. I was always the only optometrist in the setup, and later on, when I guess I was ready, I was exposed to making some decisions like, okay, you can now help us with procurement, looking at stock. This is what your budget is. So you've got to think of, this is how you have to work with this and so on.
All right. So in you now discovering all of these things, what advice then do you have to those young optometrists who are 2-3 years in practice and they've got this passion and vision to start their own practices? What are some of the critical lessons or tips or guides that you feel that they need to know? Because some of them, I think they have this thing of, I want to be in control of my own time. I will, I'm an entrepreneur, meaning that I will be able to control my schedule and all of that. But judging from what I've seen, you actually, as a boss, you're actually working 10 times more than being an employee within an optometric practice. Even if you have those responsibilities like you had earlier on, once the responsibility lies with you and you are having to make those final decisions, I've noticed that the ball game completely changes. At the end of the day, people's salaries, people's livelihoods, supplies, all of those challenges, all of those details rests with you or lies with you. So what tips then do you have for those optometrists who want to get into this thing, but they don't have the necessary information to actually realize that, wait a minute, this is actually more hard work than I envisioned? And what would you say to those individuals?
I think, well, you need to decide why you are doing something. What is your why? And you obviously have to have some kind of passion for it, whether it's the optometry side or wanting to learn about business. You've got to have that drive, because yes, it's a completely different anxiety and your perspective of everything changes. I must say, one of the things that I kind of had to be very conscious of, especially COVID and lockdown happening, is not being wasteful. Leveraging off of your networks. So that's like I have a good relationship with this guy, so I can go to him and say, I need help with this, I need help with my cash flow, how can we work together?
So relationship building is very important as a business owner.
You've got to be a people's person. You're going to be hit. You know, if somebody complains to the manager, that's you. You have to deal with the unhappy person and also the happy person, and it's sometimes overwhelming when people just go, I just want to thank you so much, but that's also the people that make it worth it. Ask questions. I don't know if I'll ever get to a point where I feel I know enough about everything. So to this day, there is still colleagues, friends, ex-employers, even people in completely different fields, but that understands retail or business in some sense, that I will call up and be like, this is what's happening with me, I need to make a decision, what do you think?
So you don't know it all. Would you say that mentorship or leadership has played a critical role in your journey in being a business owner?
Yes.
Okay, and one of the things that I wanted to ask you is that you seem to have this love for fashion. You seem to have this love for going beyond optometry. You know, you're not just thinking the clinical work, and you're not just thinking a practice, but it's as if you're passionate about building a brand. You're passionate about enhancing your professional skills as a whole, whether it be business, whether it be speaking, whether it be an eye for creativity, brand building, all these different things. How did that inspiration come about, or that approach to how you're doing things come about?
Most likely, again, my own life, my own personal life, and my exposure to the world in a whole. I'm in a generation where we are very exposed to media, social media, digital platforms, and you are constantly seeing and being stimulated by stuff. And yes, there is the clinical side, which is very important, but then I have a very young market, so they are on the socials, and I kind of know, let's make them look good, and let's make it desirable, let's make it irresistible. If you're going to wear glasses, be cute, because then there's no stigma around it. So it's very much a personal style, and whatever I stock or whatever I try to put out there or advertise or market, it comes from a personal passion for looking and feeling good.
I like that. Now, because you said you are -5. That's hectic. So you're dependent on glasses.
Yeah.
As an optometrist, how many pairs of glasses do you have personally? Because every time I see you, you seem to have a different pair of spectacles. And one would think that because you are in the eye care industry, running your own business, it's easy for you to make spectacles. But I've noticed as well that when you are sort of like doing the dispensing component and the selecting of frames, your patients, you actually educate them with regards when they're having to select eyewear. You're not only talking about it from a prescription point of view, but you're talking about it from a lifestyle point of view, from a ledger point of view, from a working environment point of view, and you are highlighting all those different aspects that are important to that person experiencing the best visual experience that they could have in the different environments. But how important then is for your team to also then be in that position where they are as comfortable, as competent in discussing eyewear selection and so forth with you?
They all wear glasses. All of us do. All of them have very nice frames from this practice, and some of them have different lenses. So I try to expose them. There's constant product training, constant knowing what's out there, what's new, why this as opposed to that. And I love that they ask me questions like, they'll ask me, why do you prescribe accommodative support instead of multifocal type of stuff? So I love that they think about stuff like that. But I also, as we go along with experiences with different patients, I'll kind of show them, like, we advise this person to do this, and look, it looks nice, it looks neat, the lenses don't look thick, it's lightweight, and this is why I suggested this. So you can actually physically touch and feel what I'm saying, or what I said.
I like it.
Or maybe we didn't, or somebody didn't make a good decision for themselves, or they were advised, or the advice that they got maybe wasn't spot on, and they were like, okay, well, this didn't work out so nicely, and here's the reasons why. So let's try to avoid this problem again.
I like that. You said something, I think, that is so powerful, so important, that when you are doing something with a patient, it's very important that your staff member is part of that process, and you're discussing the post engagement with the patient, with your team, so that they can pick up on the energy that you're doing things. They're picking up the attitude at which you're doing that. They're picking up everything that you're doing. They will be able to replicate when you are not here. So I like that.
Yes,
I like
because
that
I'm not always here.
You're not always here.
So when somebody walks in with the script and say, please quote me, because that happens, I need them to know what to do.
And the things to look out for, which I believe that a lot of optometrists, they don't spend enough time educating, equipping, upskilling their teams, so that the standard that patients experience when they get to the practice with the optometrist being there is still maintained when he or she is not there.
Yes.
Now, Gersha, what are some of the biggest challenges, separate from COVID-19 now? What are some of, apart from COVID, what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel that you have experienced as a business owner in the last 2 or 3 years? In it, while you're already in it, not the stuff that you had to learn, but now that you are in it for these past few years, what do you feel you need to be doing now that can set you apart for the next 10 years or the next 5 years?
Getting this practice to run. I almost want to say autonomous. Is that a word? But just basically upskilling the people around me so that if I feel I don't want to go on and do something else, this practice is here. They know what to do. It's going to carry on. I can bring in another optometrist or not. I think one of my challenges has been realizing that my time doesn't always belong to me. It belongs to the business. And it takes you a while before you get into a motion where it runs smoothly and they no longer need you as much. And also in the beginning, you kind of want to watch everything. You know, I wanted to understand everything. So everything had to pass by me so that I can see, okay, this is happening here, this is happening here.
So you've gone through that phase.
Pretty much. I don't think it actually ever really stops, but I'm a lot more relaxed about it. And I feel I've found a team that can figure it out.
I like that. It's been absolutely fun talking to you. I like your practice. You know, there's always that freshness or that creativity. Yeah, that vibe that you have. And I pick it up with patients. I'll be waiting for you here, and I pick it up from when patients come here. They have a certain expectation that they have when they come to your practice. Were you intentional in creating that vibe, and how did you go about doing that? I'm forcing you to give away your secrets now.
I've always known that I'm not a pencil skirt, heels, corporate wearing kind of girl. You know, I have my own energy about me where I'm seem extroverted, but I'm not really. But I am, and I like people, but you know. So I threw that into my practice. I'm completely myself, and I don't want to be judged by, I almost want to say by how I carry myself, because I shouldn't be judged because I have a nose ring. You should focus on my skill and why you're here. So I've always pressed that the way I wear my hair isn't what you're here for.
I like that. I feel it, because even with me, I used to be the suits and tie guy for a very long time, and now this is how I am. And I realized that the people that will have a problem with my dress code,
it's not your people.
It's not my people. And they were never going to buy from me anyway, because when I had the suits and ties, they never bought from me with the suits and ties.
Exactly.
But the people that are actually giving me the business, the people welcoming me in their practices, they don't even notice whether I'm casual or formal. They appreciate that which I bring to the table.
Yes.
So I get exactly where you're coming from, and it's so important that you are as real and as authentic as you possibly be. You're spending 10 hours here every day, you know, so it's so important that you are as comfortable in who you are.
And it's kind of like, this is your home. You have to be comfortable here too, otherwise you're not gonna like it.
I like that. I've learned something that I'm actually on the right track. So I'm also going to put a note. But I'm joking. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best over the next 12 months. You're doing a phenomenal job, you know. You're doing a phenomenal job. You're not one-dimensional in your thinking, and I like how diverse you are, how creative you are, and always trying new things. You're not just operating under the confinements of what is around you. You're always looking at, okay, what's next? What can I do beyond where I'm at right now? And that is something that a lot of people are struggling to have. Were you always like that, or did you develop it over time?
Well, I have different interests in life in general. You know, if you look at my hobbies, a lot of people, when they meet me out there, they go, "Oh, you're an optometrist." Or when I hear, they'll go, "Oh, you're a ballerina." You know, like.
I like that.
So I guess because I have all of these different interests, I always kind of figured that I'm not going to be boxed in. I don't see me as in optometry, this is how it is. Things are constantly changing and we have to adapt with the times.
I like that. Thank you very, very much. And this was absolutely fun. I like learning from people who are doing exceptional things. And if you need an eye examination and you are a patient who's thinking of getting their eyes examined, this is the person that you need to get in touch with, Gersha. You'll find her at Rosebank. Find her on social media. For the people that are looking for you or you've enjoyed this conversation and they want to connect with you on social media, What is your social media handle?
On Instagram, I am Gersha__A.
Okay.
My practice has a separate page, but if you find me, you'll also find my practice. And I'm Gersha Arends on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
I like that.